Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and we're going to be talking about the spell Elemental Weapon. All right, Sam. What does the spell do?
All right, elemental weapon, +1 to hit, plus a d4 elemental damage on hit. That's it. You get an hour of it. You put it on yourself. You put it on your weapon, and then your weapon does bonus damage on hit. That's it. That's the whole spell.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. No, all right. What do you think? I think this sounds pretty good.
Okay. We can immediately draw out some comparisons. So this is basically if Hunter's Mark plus Magic Weapon had a child, and that child was a 3rd level spell, right? So Hunter's Mark is a bonus d6 damage when you hit something, which is functionally what's happening here. You have a little bit of flexibility where you don't have to move it around. Magic Weapons +1 to hit and +1 to damage. That's a 2nd level spell slot. It makes weapon magical for the sake of it. So what you're getting for a 3rd level spell slot is an upgrade from a +1 damage to a +1 d4 damage, and that damage becomes a elemental damage type. We've talked in length about how the elemental damage types aren't really that relevant because so few creatures have vulnerability to them. They really end up being more of a downside to force damage because the more things are going to be resistant to them. But even that's kind of moot because most things you're fighting are going to not be specifically against the 1 damage type. And when they are like, oh God, we're against fire stakes, I guess I'm not going to make it fire this time, which isn't a super interesting decision anyway. So we're looking at like a spell that's middlingly better than a spell I think is quite bad, which is Magic Weapon, and around as good as I think a spell that's a 1st level spell, which is Hunter's Mark. But it being both combined, it lasting an hour, it's fine. This isn't something that I'm ever going to be like, I don't know if I would ever build a character with Elemental Weapon in mind. It helps that the upcasts get slightly better, but the upcasts are really steep, so you have to take it as a 5th level spell to get the extra damage on it to 2d4, which can be good, but if you're doing it at that point, you're probably doing things like Swift Quiver, which makes it a lot worse. I don't think it compares all that well to other things around it, and you get a little bit of a version of some spells that are like meh, so I don't know. I think that if your character wants to attack with a flaming sword, this is how you do it, but I wouldn't do it that often.
Yeah, I'm coming at it from the point we have discussed this at length before. Spell or magic vulnerabilities don't come into play too often, but they do sometimes, and for those times, I think this is a neat thing to have.
Sure.
I just maybe they don't come in all that often, but when they do, I really like hitting somebody where it hurts.
Sure. And this definitely does that. That's why you like Chromatic Orb so much too. But it is, I think realistically, that isn't a super motivating part of the spell. But I do think like the d4 damage isn't irrelevant. If you're making like this, it helps that for the half casters that get this, because this is a Paladin, Ranger, Artificer spell and a Druid spell. This is one of those rare instances where I think it's basically uncastable on your Druid, but pretty castable on the rest. In that if you
more so on a Ranger than a Druid.
Yeah.
More so on a half caster. All right, go ahead.
The reason being is they get extra attack. So immediately out the gate, if you spend your action elemental weapon in your bow, you get 2d4 damage every time you attack with it for as long as you can maintain concentration. So if you're playing a ranged character, like this is uniquely good on Ranger and Artificer compared to your Paladin, because Paladin tends to be melee characters and Rangers tend to be ranged characters. So the ability to maintain concentration goes way, way down if you're a Paladin versus a Ranger. If you can get enough attacks with this over the course of an hour, and you get 2 starting when you get it, you get 2 around, so it scales with your class more so than it scales with the Druid class. This is decent there. Is it better than a Hunter's Mark, which is an extra d6, but you don't get the +1 to hit? I think is kind of moot. You're already going to be most of the time taking archery, which is another +2 to hit. You already probably have a huge deck, so you're probably getting like +5, 7, 9, somewhere in that range to hit things already when you get access to the spell. An extra 5%. It's not nothing. It's nice to have. Is it probably it's worth an extra 2 damage that you're losing out on Hunter's Mark, but like, or an extra damage per hit, but that's very marginal at that point. You're basically trading a damage for a 5% chance to hit ish. Moot kind of points. This is a 2nd or a 3rd level spell slot though. So, I'm sorry. And I also said earlier that you get this at 5th level. You don't. You get this at 9th level, which makes it substantially worse. But you still are multi-attacking, so that's not as bad. I was thinking, oh God, Bob, in my brain, I was like, oh, it's a 3rd level spell. You get it at 5th level. That's wrong.
Sam, I'm the one that's been drinking.
Listen, It's wearing off on me. I'm absorbing the vapors from the computer screen, and it's infecting my brain waves. Oh god, this is okay. All right, I was being nice to this spell before. Now this spell's ass. This spell's uncastable. Oh, you get this at 9th level. Oh my god. You downgrade dice, upgrade one of your precious 3rd level spell slots to do plus 5%. Oh god, no. I take it all back. Don't cast this spell. Don't ever do it. This spell's awful. Oh my god. Oh god, that's bad.
Do I take it that this is a Sam score of 1?
No, this is a 2, because there'll still be windows where you're happy enough to say this is an upgrade over Hunter's Mark, because you just have so few things to do. And if you never get hit, it's kind of just like you're not spending any resources if you weren't going to use the 3rd level slot anyway. There will be some characters that want to do the fire damage with their bows. But god, is this awful. This is... Oh. Because you could just be Hunter's Marking. Yeah, okay. All right, context. If you can and you're playing a ranger where this is at its best, you should be using Hunter's Mark. If you're playing a paladin, nope, this isn't it. Just use a Divine Smite and get more damage out of it. It's guaranteed, because you're probably going to drop concentration before you get Divine Smite worth the damage out of it. Because if you're Divine Smiting with a 3rd level slot, you're doing 5d8 damage. The number of d4s you need to deal to get to 5d8 damage is too many. So it's not a paladin spell. Which means it's basically just a ranger spell. And if it's just a ranger spell, you need to be getting a lot of damage out of this over the course of an hour, which is conceivable. And the only saving grace for this being a 2. On every other class, this is a 1. On rangers, this is a 2.
All right, I'll give it a 2 as well. I'm being generous and irresponsible. Sure. All right, everyone. That was this elemental weapon? Is that what it's called? Elemental weapon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Sam, for your wisdom and insight.
Anytime.
Goodbye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.